Down.
And
We
we
ready?
are going live.
Live? Okay. Good evening, live from SoCal. I'm going to call this meeting to order. And first off, I'm going to have Principal Lemos introduce our pledge leader for tonight.
Good evening. I'm happy to be here. I see that Margot's with us. Margot, in a minute, I'll have you unmute your microphone as well so that everybody can hear you. Margot is a 5th grade student here at Santa Cruz Gardens. She has attended here since 1st grade. She is an exemplar of what it means to be a Santa Cruz Gardens Dolphin. She participates, she works hard, and we're thrilled to have her. So Margot, if you could unmute your microphone. We will get started with the pledge. Margot, can you hear me? Let's see. I think we might have lost her. Mr. Donnelly, let me know how long you want to wait for her to get back in before you want to just move ahead.
Looks like someone might have just popped in. There she is.
Perfect. All right, Margot, if you can hear me, go ahead and unmute your microphone. There you are. Okay, I can see you, Margot. Now just make sure to unmute the microphone so that we can hear you as well. There you go. All right, Margot. Thanks for being here tonight. Whenever you're ready, you can begin the pledge.
Okay, so should I start?
Yep, go ahead.
Tell us to stand.
You can sit. You got it. Please stand and then.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
You're doing great.
Please stand. Put your hand on your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance
To the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, now I'm going to read the mission statement for SoCal Union Elementary School District. Staff, students, parents, and the community share the responsibility for each child's success. We are committed to ensuring that each student develops the skills and confidence for lifelong achievements and is prepared to make a positive contribution to our world.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Margot. I think that Mr. Donnelly has a certificate that he's going to read to you.
You bet, Margot. Thanks for coming in, leading us in the pledge. This is always the highlight of the evening. And it's been really nice to meet you. So I have a little certificate I will read off to you. Margot Rawlings has been part of the Santa Cruz Gardens family since 1st grade. Over the years, her teachers have noted she is a kind, hardworking student who loves learning. She enthusiastically participates in class discussions. She is skilled at adding on to the ideas of others as well as contributing to her own unique perspectives. Margot's teachers also share that she is creative and enjoys art. She is brave and enthusiastic and is always willing to try new things. Margot embodies what it means to be a Santa Cruz Gardens Dolphin, and we couldn't be more proud of her. Hey, that's great, Margot. That's awesome. Thanks for coming too. Tonight also. You're an artist, huh?
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, well, it says you're creative. And what do you creative with? You like to paint or
I like to paint and I like to like draw. stuff.
do what?
I like to draw and paint.
Perfect. That's great. Any other board members have any questions to ask Margot?
Hi, Margot.
Jump in.
Hi.
Oh, I want to make sure you could hear me. Sometimes I get bad with the mute. So Margot, have you started any new hobbies or learned anything new besides school stuff during quarantine, during all this time at home, like doing puzzles or things like that?
Well, I learned how to tie-dye and I learned how to paint in different ways. And other than that, I think that's it.
Very cool. Thank you.
No.
Thank you. Well, thank you for coming, Margot. And if any others have any questions, if not, then we'll let you go on and do some more artwork.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and next time I want to see some of your artwork behind you on the wall.
Okay,
All right. Thank you, Margot.
you're welcome. Bye.
Thank you, Margot. Thank
Good
you.
night. All right, Linda, let's go with a roll call, please.
Trustee Rodriguez,
Here.
Trustee Jackson Miller,
Here.
Trustee Izant Gonzalez,
Here.
Trustee Friedman,
Present.
Trustee Donley.
Present.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as it stands?
Jen here. I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I'll second. Carolyn.
Jen first, Carolyn second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. Public hearing is our next item. And so tonight I'm going to turn over to Jessica for a public hearing regarding sufficiency in instructional materials. A lot of tongue twisters tonight. Starting with the school year 2021. Okay, Jessica.
Thank you, President Donnelly and board and public. Each year, the schools and school districts need to provide an opportunity for public hearing to ensure that we have sufficient instructional materials for our student in alignment with Education Code 611-9 and 60450. After conducting an inquiry with all of our school sites principals, we have identified that we have sufficient textbooks for students to complete their assignments and their homework for the year. So it's my recommended action that we open and hold a public hearing tonight.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing at this moment, and I'm going to give it about a good 30 seconds in case there's anybody who wants to comment. Now, public comment is now open. Okay, I take it there's no public comment, so I'm going to go ahead and close it at this moment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is to approve the consent agenda as it stands. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion. Carolyn.
Carolyn first.
I will second. Amanda.
Okay, there's a couple items here that are resolutions, so we'll go ahead and do a roll call for this. And before, is there any comments on anything on the consent agenda? If not, then we'll go ahead and go with a roll call then, Linda. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
I hear you. Well, I do.
Okay. Okay, good. Trustee Rodriguez,
Aye.
Trustee Jackson Miller,
Aye.
Trustee Izant Gonzalez,
Yes.
Trustee Friedman,
Aye.
Trustee Donnelly.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next item is we have public communications. There is an email that I believe Scott will read for public communications, and then let me know if there's anybody else who's going to hop on board for any public communications.
You're muted, Scott.
Thank you. I will read this email that came to the Board of Trustees from a parent in the community. And it reads, hello, school board members. Given the recent announcements of both Monterey and San Benito counties returning to in-class instruction, both of which have higher COVID infection rates than Santa Cruz County, I would like to ask the following 3 questions for tonight's school board meeting, 9/16/20. 1, what steps SUESD is taking to prepare for a return to in-class instruction? What is the current estimated time frame for returning to some form of in-class instruction? 2, what are the specific requirements, not California Department of Public Health recommendations, needed for some form of in-class instruction to resume? 3, can or will SUESD resume in-class instruction independently from the other school districts in our county, or is the expectation to have all elementary school districts in Santa Cruz County open simultaneously? Thank you for reading the answers to these questions.
Okay, so that's it. So obviously they know that we cannot discuss public communications. So the answer to questions, you will contact them later, Scott, I believe.
Yes, I've been in contact with this
Okay.
parent and will continue to be. And also much of that information is addressed in items that are on the agenda tonight. So
Okay.
It's hopeful that maybe some of the questions are answered, baked into the board agenda.
Okay. Thank you. And then with that, are there any other communications? Anybody out there? I'll just give it a George or Linda or anybody out there raising their hands.
Not at this time.
Okay, safe to say that we could move on to standing reports. So we'll start with our assistant superintendents, and I believe we always go with Michelle. I forgot who's in order here. So, well, we'll go with you, Michelle.
I'll go. Good evening, trustees and public. So just a few things that have been going on in the business world. I had an opportunity to meet with the Heart of SoCal and go over some final plans and drawings for their completion of the project behind SoCal Elementary School. And they had part of the pathway already laid as a sample, and it looks absolutely beautiful. They've got some boulders built into the trail, and it's just, I'm amazed how quickly that project is coming along. So, and they've been nothing but wonderful partners, keeping the school district in the loop with everything going on every step and asking for our input and making sure it's all working for the school site. So I'm glad for their partnership. Also, the state went ahead and granted the waiver, so we can continue now to serve meals to all of our students, irregardless of their status. So we started that, and I'm happy to report that our numbers are up and we are able to provide meals. Kathy has been working so diligently and so hard, and so is her staff, to make sure that we get all meals out to our kids. And we were just approved for the waiver to now start serving breakfast and lunch on Saturdays and Sundays as well. So we do a Tuesday meal pickup for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we'll do a Friday meal pickup for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So 7 days a week we'll be able to provide. Also, we are continuing our partnership with the Second Harvest Food Bank, and they're doing weekly drop-offs of perishable and non-perishable items. And we're continuing to pass that out to the community as needed. And I'm thankful for their partnership. They've been wonderful in providing food for our families. We have been having a lot of fun in the business department, ordering lots and lots of supplies. We look like a warehouse in the business office right now, and New Brighton's pack is full of goodies. And so I'm happy to report that we've now gotten most of those supply bags out to our families. We're going to start hopefully next week doing deliveries to students and families who are unable to come pickup times, and our bus drivers will start driving out and delivering to families directly. So that'll be great. Also, we've been in the process of ordering PPE for all of our school sites in preparation for returning to school when and if that happens, at what point in time. So we have lots and lots of hand sanitizer and masks and shields and all that good stuff. I met today with all the CBOs in the county for our bi-weekly meetings. Sorry about that. One of the things that I'll bring to the board probably in the next month or two is a resolution to pass a trans. This is anticipation of the deferments that the state has enacted in order to pass the state budget for this year. As you know, we've been fully funded, but in order to make that happen, they've deferred cash payments. And so without the cash, we have a hard time paying our bills. So to ensure that the district has enough cash flow to get us through the year, we're going to join hopefully a county-wide pool for all the districts in the county. And we've been working with them, and the partnership with the county has been amazing. They're putting this resolution together. I had a sample of it. It's 40 pages long, the resolution alone. So I am thankful I did not have to write that, just like the board to know. Let's see, what else have we been up to? We're starting work on our new attendance system, which we'll be implementing next year. So IT is hard at work at that, and Corey Montanez and the school site personnel, so we can start prepping for our migration to our new system. And we're continuing passing out Chromebooks and exchanging Chromebooks and working with our families on helping them with connections and hotspots and all the stuff that goes along with the IT world out there. And that is my report for this evening.
Thank you. Jessica.
Well, thank you again, President Donnelly and board. I'm happy to report that Ed Services too has been involved in lots of exciting things. Most recently, we have released and published our volume 2 of our multi-phase distance learning plan. It went out through email to parents in the context of a letter today and was posted on our district website last week. It's 38 pages of good reading pleasure. It has a different format than last time, and I think it's a little bit more visually appealing to the community at large. We've also unveiled our new Ed Services digital newsletter. And that Ed Services digital newsletter includes our new mission and vision from our department, what's ahead for our staff, curated resources in the area of equity and value and care and wellness and professional development, with links to professional development opportunities that are free to our teachers. It includes calendars and plans and all of those kinds of great things. I was hoping to have one viewer. I have 90 viewers, so that's really exciting to see 90 viewers in our digital newsletter just after a few days. We've also been working out quite a bit with our Opal Cliffs home-based learning model. I just really have to give a shout out to our 2 teachers who are involved with that program, who are creating individualized learning plans for kids. It's just really exciting and fabulous to see the things that they're doing. And I'm so lucky to be involved. I'm also working with our EL specialists and our EL TOSA about creating new and innovative ways to assess students coming to us for the first time and establishing their level of English through the LPAC. So I met with them today, and we've got some really great plans that we're kind of putting together in order to get those kids tested. And then I've been working with a few of our administrators and teachers on our attendance, participation, and engagement requirements under Senate Bill 98. And so we were able to do that through Illuminate, and working really carefully and skillfully with our software representatives in Illuminate to create some easier ways, not easy, but easier ways for our staff to measure how our students are participating and attending and engaging with instruction virtually. So those are the exciting things that we've been working on, in addition to just some of the everyday things that are so fun over here. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Scott.
Thanks, Ted. Always great to hear a summary of all the great work going on and under the Ed Services house and under the business roof. I'm especially grateful that we were given that flexibility for student meals. That's been something that's really been a support to our community. And it's always great to see the passion that everybody involved with that, most especially Kathy Giannini, has, not just about being able to execute it, but knowing how important it is for our families. So it's really happy about that. And want to commend Michelle and Kathy for all their work on that. And then Jessica for the work and with all her team members on the multi-phase distance learning plan. That was a huge undertaking, much appreciated. I'd also like to express my appreciation for all the efforts made by our site administrators and teachers and staff that went into making a successful and engaging round of back to school nights at all of our schools the past 2 weeks. First at New Brighton and then at our elementary sites. No easy task to be able to take something that's been a in-person physical construct for, dare I say, centuries, and turn it into a digital experience that is meaningful. And once again, our teachers and principals pull it off with a lot of hard work and ingenuity. I'd like to express my further appreciation for the work that Dr. Kiernan and our site administrators and teachers put into developing that clear plan that she mentioned that meets the state threshold for documenting participation and engagement as required by SB 98. I wanted to double down on that, even though Jessica had already mentioned it, because this is one of those things, if not done collaboratively, can really cause a lot of angst in a school system. And while it's still hard, as she mentioned, and not easy, it's clear. And it was done with all hands working together and not a decision made at one level and pushed down to the next. And I just really appreciate that collaborative approach. I would like the board to know that Nikki Bryant from Capitola Recreation will present at our next school board meeting and update us all on the progress of the out of school time childcare program that they put together with the needs of our district families in mind. So there's something to look forward to. I'd also like to commend Michelle Kennedy and our principal Kristen Murphy from Soquel and office manager Diana Damer. Earlier this week, they worked together with community members and provided some donations to our first responders who have done so much work in protecting us with all of the fires recently. They accumulated and donated 40 air purifiers and bags full of wellness products and free services, including chiropractic, acupuncture, and massage. And of course, our first responders were very grateful. Finally, I'd just like to thank our association presidents, Corey Montanez and Gordon Barrett, and all the CSEA and SEA unit members for continuing to work with us on shared solutions to all of the ongoing challenges that 2020 has brought us. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Do we have anybody from CSEA here tonight?
I don't think so.
Okay. SEA, we have Gordon here. Gordon, you have anything to report out on?
Sure. SEA has not met since the last time I was here with you guys, but thank you for having me on. I want to echo what Scott just said about engagement tracker, tracking student engagement. I've spoken to associations in other districts where that has become very burdensome on teachers. And I think the process that we have here in this district has really taken care of a lot of those issues. So I really appreciate the work that I know Dr. Kiernan and Scott and others have done to really make that process much more user-friendly than I know it is in some other areas. I also wanted to thank you guys on the board for allowing people to give in-person, or not in person, but to give their own public comments today. I think that's a really awesome step, and something I very much appreciate, and I know others also do. We had I also want to say thank you, Scott, Jessica, and Michelle. We had an informal conversation with Corey Montanez. Geez, was that yesterday? I can't even keep track of days anymore. That was yesterday. So with regards to the idea of small group targeted in-person instruction, so that's something that SEA and CSEA will be having a joint meeting about in the coming weeks to discuss that concept. We haven't figured out a date for that yet, but we should be getting out information about a joint SEA CSEA meeting in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, Gordon. And you're always welcome too.
Thank you, guys. I put out a sign-up sheet for SEA members to take this chair for coming meetings, and so you might see some other faces in here also instead of me.
Okay, very good. But you're always welcome, like I said. Thanks, Gordon. Okay, items from trustees. Let's start up here with Carolyn.
So let's see, I attended the Santa Cruz Gardens virtual town hall, as well as the Santa Cruz Gardens and New Brighton Middle School back to school nights. So it was great to be able to connect with some of the teachers, and I just so appreciate how just so optimistic they remain in the face of all these challenges. So that was just great to see. A lot of different teachers at the middle school I was able to access their presentations, and then one teacher at Santa Cruz Gardens. That's it from me.
Thank you. Can I move over to Phil?
So I want to add to what Michelle was reporting about the Heart of SoCal. So I saw our community partners using our construction road to get down in there to do the work. It was kind of nice to see that have another purpose. And I'm hoping they're going to be done pretty soon. They were working at both ends at the same time. So yay to them. That's it for me.
Amanda.
All right. I also attended Santa Cruz Gardens back to school night. Also am very, very impressed with the creative use of the technology, and the way it's not the same as an in-person back to school night, but teachers really are able to showcase their works, give us those of us who aren't there one-on-one doing the daily work with our kids, a nice sample of what the classroom interactions are like now, and showing some of the different programs they're using. So that was really nice to experience. But again, also really looking forward to the time when we can all safely be in person again. Just holding on to good thoughts for our community moving into the right place for that to be safe for everyone. I did have a Santa Cruz County School Boards Association meeting Monday night this week. And we had several very, very interesting discussions, but one of them certainly was about the impact of the CZU Lightning Complex fires. Our association president is a trustee, perhaps even the current board president of Bonnie Doon. And so he had a lot of really moving things to report out on what his district is experiencing right now. And as he is learning from talking to folks from Paradise and other areas, board members on what kind of advocacy they'll need to be doing of course, so that group, as you all know, is a meeting with a trustee representing each district in the county. So of course, we all extended our offers for anything that we could do to help as far as advocating for those communities. We also, of course, are thinking of SLB and Pacific Elementary District also impacted, and also heard from the SLB representatives about all of the efforts in their communities. But thinking in terms of again, not only what it means for these districts right now and all of the complexities of distance learning on top of everything people are experiencing, but thinking about what it's going to mean down the road with so many people displaced and rebuilding. And it's really, it's just so much. It's so much for administrators and board members and teachers and students. So I know that collaboration and communication is key, and it's really nice to be part of groups where we all are coming together as a county, and we all at that meeting also really expressed appreciation yet again for the way our superintendents throughout the county are working together on issues that are impacting all of our students. The other part of that Santa Cruz County School Boards Association meeting was our guest speaker was Gail Pellerin, our elections clerk chief here in the county, an update on important issues having to do with voting and how we're all going to receive vote by mail ballots, and how you certainly can mail your ballot after you vote, but there are also going to be, I think, 15 different drop boxes located throughout the county. And those are drop boxes that just go directly to elections. So they suggest anyone concerned about having enough time to put it through the Postal Service just takes them to the drop box, like the one that's right in front of 701 Ocean Street, one in Watsonville, several places throughout the county, and then also places for the folks who are maybe displaced by the fires. The last thing I'll add that Gail told all of us is for folks who have been displaced, either due to fires or maybe they're just somewhere else because of distance learning, needing family support, mail forwarding does not forward ballots. So if someone is expecting that their mail forwarding will send their ballot, it will not, and they need to go to the county elections website to fill out a little form, and then elections can directly send the ballot to the new address, but you can't count on mail forwarding through the Postal Service because ballots aren't forwardable. That is it from me. As always, it's nice to see you all, and thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Jen,
Hi, can you hear me?
I could hear you. I could.
Okay, great. I'm using a headset, and I normally don't because of the sound. But yeah, I'll keep it short. Happy Mexican Independence Day today, by the way. But thank you for all of that amazing information, Amanda, and it's so important and timely. Now I was able to attend the Main Street Back to School Night, which was lovely. I got to meet some parents in my kids' classes, and that was great. And we survived the past 2 weeks. We saw some blue skies today, and so that's where I'm at right now. And thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Jen. I wanted to attend the Santa Cruz County School Board meeting, but I was driving back from Santa Barbara, and I forgot I could even listen to it on the phone when I'm driving. So as I'm just kind of curious on Gail, that she touched on areas that the drop boxes are going to be. Will the drop boxes be at normal polling places or just certain designated areas?
There are certain designated areas, but you can always take your mail ballot to the designated polling places.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So like the Kaiser Arena now, you could take it down to the Kaiser Arena and just drop it off there. The other cool thing for people who need to go in person, I think she said this, they're going to have something on their website, like people who need to do a provisional ballot or something, so they need to go in person. I think she said they're going to have wait times posted like they do for some of the urgent care places. So you can go on the website and figure out, oh, should I go to Kaiser Arena to drop off my ballot or to go do a provisional ballot? Or would it be better to go to, such and such school or church, whatever the polling places are? So that's pretty interesting. I'm really so impressed with what our elections department does in terms of transparency and access to voting. So yeah, I definitely encourage everyone. I'm pretty sure their website is votescount.us. Yep. All right.
Maybe we could put a link on our, do we have a link on our website, Scott, for that? Be good to maybe put that on there. And another question
now, but we can definitely add one.
Because I was wondering too, since the schools were polling places, are we going to have drop boxes at the schools?
I am not sure about that, but we can inquire with county elections.
I mean, if so, that would be something good to put on the website too. Any clear instructions or locations to drop off your ballot if you need to, if you're not going to mail it in. So that's just kind of an idea I had. I didn't attend any of the back to school nights, but however, I had actually had some good feedback on the virtual back to school night. I mean, everybody misses, seeing each other in person, but the virtual had actually a feedback on the streets, and it sounded like it was well attended as too. And also, I noticed that I went by New Brighton Middle School, and the staff parking or the front parking lot seemed there were a lot of cars there. So we do have teachers working out of their classroom. And is that the majority of the teachers, or in our district, or half, or do you know?
We haven't done a count, so I would say, it's not sure if it's a majority, but it's a good chunk. And I think that it's proven wise, the decision we came together to kind of be on the honor system, so to speak, and say, teach where's best for you to teach from. And for some folks, that means their house because they have children at home or some other really important reason. And for some folks, that means their classroom, where typically the Wi-Fi network is more robust and all their materials are in one place and their dock cameras there. So folks are really just doing however they can best deliver instruction. They use that, and that flexibility has seemed to be proven effective.
Thank you. Gordon, you had something to say? Oh,
Scott said it pretty well. Yeah, I was
okay.
I don't think it's a majority of teachers, but there are, anytime I'm at New Brighton, there's plenty of teachers there. And I know that they all really appreciate having access to the space, access to the internet, the ability to see coworkers and have maybe a socially distanced lunch. So I think it's really fantastic. And it's something that a lot of teachers are taking advantage of.
Great. Well, I'll close it with a thank you to our teachers and staff for pulling this off. Okay, let's move on to our presentations and discussions. 6A, discussion regarding racial justice and educational equity. And Scott.
So this is a major focus point for the year for the district, and of course is my number one goal for the year. Our efforts related to racial justice and educational equity continue. On one practical matter, as requested at our last meeting, our site administrators have agreed to start a shared document in which teachers can share books from EPIC that lend themselves to further student understanding and engagement on the topic of racial justice. EPIC is the digital library that our students have access to. As a reminder, we have 3 groups working directly with consultant Nicole Anderson and Associates, this governance team, our administrative council, our ADCO, and our racial justice task force. ADCO will meet the day before our next board meeting on October 6th. This governance team will meet between our next regular board meetings in October, so on October 14th. And on the 3rd group, we have rounded out the membership of the Racial Justice Task Force with 22 seats and 24 members, 2 of the seats being shared seats. The stakeholder groups represented include 2 seats filled by board members, 3 seats filled by classified staff members, 1 seat filled by an employee from our confidential staff, 5 seats filled by classroom teachers, 1 seat filled by a teacher on special assignment, 1 site administrator, 1 district administrator, and 8 seats filled by parents of students in our district. We feel we have a good cross-section of stakeholders. The team may want to consider adding student representation, but I've chosen to let the team of adults form first and then let them decide that. I've surveyed all members of the task force and identified a list of dates and times that best work for most members. Often one of the most practical but most challenging tasks involved in getting the ball rolling. I've shared that list of the most workable dates with Nicole, and we will at minimum get the first meeting scheduled and get that going. That's my update on this very important topic, and I'll turn it back over to you, Ted.
Thank you. Does the board have any clarifying questions? Phil, hey, you guys just hop in.
So, Scott, thank you. And I like your idea about having the students involved, and perhaps in a kind of a gradual way. Maybe they're site-based groups first, and so they're more students can get involved if you do it that way, and then maybe later on we bring them all together or something.
I think that kind of gradual approach will be very meaningful and also provide kind of a safety net for students to feel comfortable in getting involved.
There we go, right button there. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think that's also great to have students involved too. Any other clarifying questions from the board? It's okay. Do we have any public comments on this?
I do not have any via text.
There are none via the email address.
Okay, thank you for checking. All right, so any further discussion with the board?
Ted, we may just want to have our moderator, George, just either confirm or deny that there's no public comment via Zoom.
Okay, George.
No public comment on Zoom right now.
Okay, I see your picture popping up. I go, how does George stay so still? He doesn't move. He's very attentive. No, the picture that's on there. Thank you. All right, if there's no further discussion from the board, let's move on to 6B. And this is a discussion regarding COVID-19 and distant learning, CZU lightning complex fires. And again, Scott.
Yeah, maybe I should rebrand this item, just everything 2020 has thrown at us kind of in one big bucket. But I'll start with the most definitive update, and it's regarding the CZU fire that's already been mentioned multiple times tonight and all of the fallout and impact on our district. Not as nearly as severe as the districts that were mentioned by Amanda, in San Lorenzo Valley and Pacific and Bonnie Doon, but still an impact nonetheless. As you know, our district canceled distance learning during the week of August 24th to the 28th because of the impact the fire had mostly on our staff, either directly or indirectly. The update that I want to give you is that our Form J13A has now been completed. Thank you all the board members for signing that, and submitted. It's been submitted to the County Office of Education, which is the next step in the protocol. The J13A is the form that will allow us to not have to make up those 5 days and not to have to incur financial penalties if approved. The County Office of Education will now put our submission under their review and either seek some refinement from us or submit the document to the California Department of Education on our behalf. I will continue to update the board on any news related to this critical waiver process. On the COVID-19 end of things, our state has a new monitoring system called the Blueprint for a Safer Economy. It's color-coded. The change in monitoring system struck me as similar to the progression that our schools have gone through in recent years, moving from kind of a narrow numbers only based system to our more robust color-coded system. Anyway, our county has moved from purple to red. And yes, red is better than purple. Me personally, I've had a little trouble getting used to that. Red usually kind of seems like the bad area. So red is not great in the system, but it's not as bad as purple. In other words, we've moved from widespread to substantial risk in the new system. The system goes all the way down to minimal risk. We're not there yet. If we're able to stay in red for 14 days, and that would be through next week on the 22nd, certain opportunities are technically afforded to schools, including essentially reopening schools. As a team of superintendents, as was mentioned again in a previous comment, we've really worked together to put all of our minds together and make consistent decisions. So that team feels strongly, and we hold to the belief to move cautiously on this. Health officials have legitimate reason to believe that a move back to purple is likely. We're determined not to create a yo-yo effect or any more of a yo-yo effect that's in our control in terms of bringing students and staff back on campus only to have to pull them back again. It's been mentioned what a challenge distance learning is on all ends, and getting some traction based on so much good work, and to have to go back and forth is, I don't think would be a beneficial situation to students or staff. A more prudent consideration is to work collaboratively with our colleagues in CSEA and SEA to develop a well-vetted plan to bring small, stable cohorts of students back as allowed in the California Department of Public Health guidelines. Stable cohorts under these guidelines include no more than 14 students and 2 adults. Starting on this small scale will allow us to serve the groups of students who we as a district team, a broad district team, determine need in-person learning support the most, and then closely monitor how things are progressing. We did this already back in the summer when we had our ESY and summer school program in Main Street. It was a soft opening, small approach in which we were able to make sure everything was working the way we wanted it to work. Starting small is our best chance to accomplish 2 goals, just like we did in summer, and that's keep staff and students safe and begin to meet the in-person learning needs of identified groups of students. If we proceed with that approach and our county moves back into purple, we can still maintain those groups if our district team deems it to be safe. We have started very informal discussions, as Gordon mentioned earlier, with our association presidents on the topic of small, stable cohorts of students. As a district, we have no interest in rushing this process, and we do have an interest in tackling the project collaboratively. I don't have a specific timeline for you at this point, only that I'm on what I consider to be a listening tour. So I can be sure any fears or concern from our staff can be properly addressed before moving forward. Finally, changing gears just a little bit in terms of COVID-19 related litigation, there had been some hope that our legislators would put in place some protection and some liability protection for public schools from lawsuits related to COVID-19. One such possibility was AB 1384. It would have provided said liability protection for school districts for COVID-related lawsuits. It wasn't considered by the state Senate in the final days of this legislative session, this most recent one. There is advocacy for hearing it in the next legislative session, but no such protection right now. And it just means that we just need to continue to be ever more mindful and vigilant in terms of risk management. Because as we know, any lawsuit has the potential to have a crippling impact on our district budget. And on that not so cheery note, I'll turn it back over to you, Ted.
All right. Any comments or questions from the board? Phil, go ahead. Yeah, just unmute and go on. Just go for it.
So I thank Scott for that and just the sobering end there. When all is said and done, I believe we have a standard of care that we have to meet. I think that's a legal thing. And that part of that goes with another concept, which is called the prudent man. So if I know that there's something could happen, I should make an effort to mitigate it. Now, I was on the county health department website earlier today, and I see two things. One is that our RT number has gone up since Labor Day. I expect that because the testing has gone up. So that's a good thing. What is not good is hospitalizations have gone up. And since Labor Day, the number of hospitalizations has doubled in 10 days. And so that doesn't seem like a good thing. And I don't think it has anything to do with testing. So prudent man standard of care, you know, should be what we're looking at. And that's it for me.
Thanks. Yeah, I have nothing to say, but I agree.
Thank you, Phil.
So,
Jen, there you are.
hey, so from your presentation, and thank you very much. What I hear you saying is the district will be focusing on the stable cohort of 16 people, 14 students, 2 adults, or 1 adult, 15 students. It's 16 people, and then there's a population or a percentage threshold of the school that you're supposed to stay under. So that being said, if I'm understanding correctly, that is the focus of the district team with regards to kids on campus, the small group instruction stable cohorts. So
Yes.
the high restrictive hybrid model is being shelved, correct?
At this time, what you just said is correct. Our focus is on the potential for those small stable cohorts to come back in a safe manner.
Right. So then, is there any discussion on giving the community sort of a timeline of we're not even bringing the hybrid to the table until this point in time, and we're just focusing on the groups you mentioned?
I would anticipate that will be further elaborated in our next superintendent's letter. And in the last letter, we kind of alluded to, we alluded to the new monitoring system, what it does technically allow,
Right.
but how we're planning to proceed. And I would definitely envision that our next letter spells that out in more detail.
Okay, thank you.
Well, a lot of good points there.
I just
Hey,
have just a follow up to that discussion in terms of bringing the stable cohorts. Would it impact would it lead to rearranging the current classrooms, or how would that work?
Yeah, not to be too vague here, but definitely a TBD situation. There's so many different variations that could take. I'd like to reference our summer school program because it took on a very unique look. And while I'm not saying that these small groups will necessarily replicate what we did in summer school, I do just like to reference it because it was unique. We didn't bring students back Monday through Friday for 6 hours a day as we think of traditional school. We had students in that scenario in distance learning most days and coming to in-person learning for small chunks of time on certain days of the week. And so that's just one variation that this sort of approach with small stable cohorts could take. So it's too early to answer that question until we get better and more feedback straight from the field, from the folks who have boots on the ground, and will better be able to inform us on how we might be able to accomplish the goal that I think everybody could agree to: keep everybody safe, bring back the students who need it the most, but do that in a way that everybody feels comfortable with. We'll need to hear more from the folks that are actually going to do that work. So that's the long answer. The shorter answer is too early to tell.
Thank you. But I do applaud the emphasis on bringing back the students that need it the most. I think that's wonderful. So thank you for that.
Sure. Any other questions, comments? Not. So our county, if the students were to go back to the classrooms, would all schools in the county do this, or is it up to the district? So we bring students back, but then another district decides not to, or is it going to be a countywide thing?
So technically, it's an LEA by LEA decision. Although I will say that our county, being the size that it is and being as collaborative as it is, and working off the same data,
Mhm.
a small county, as has been mentioned multiple times tonight, we have tried to proceed in a consistent approach that
Okay.
is sensible to parents and community members across the county, in spite of what side of a boundary line, district boundary line they live in. So I personally and professionally value the consistency with which our districts have proceeded. I'd like to say that it's not a lockstep. We have districts with as few as 100 students in our county, and we have districts with a district with 20,000 students.
Right.
And so it can't be lockstep and totally replicated, but the general approach and the general goals, I think, can remain the same. And I can say that I anticipate that the general approach will be this next step being the focus on the small, stable cohorts.
Okay. Yeah, that would be tough if they broke up the districts in the county. I mean, we're getting communication about other counties that are opening up. So that would be somewhat, I think, of a nightmare. With that, do we have any public comment on this issue?
Nothing from text.
Nothing from email.
Nothing from Zoom.
Okay. All right, if there's no further discussion, comments, then we'll move on to 6C. All right, let's move on to 6C. We're going to discuss board policy 1312, uniform complaint procedures. And Scott.
Yes, lots of board policies tonight. Getting back in the swing of some of those, trying to have some feel for a little bit of normalcy with board items. So let me I lost my place here for a second, if you'll forgive me, and I'll get to 6C. There we go. So this is the board policy 1312.3. Just bring this down here so I'm not looking in the wrong direction. And this is the uniform complaint procedure. This one is fairly straightforward in terms that the update was really to add in medical condition as a characteristic that is protected from discrimination. So the last several years, this policy has undergone recommended updates from CSBA. And typically a big part in the update is to add in different groups or different classifications that are protected under the universal complaint process. This has been brought in by new law, SB 75, which extends the use of the uniform complaint procedure. And so there is some wordsmithing, not to emphasize some of the important features changed through strikeout and bold and italicized font on page 32 or the first page of the revised policy. But the second page, page 2 of 6 of the policy, page 33 of the docket, is really where the key change can be seen. And that's in that first paragraph where medical condition has been added as a group that is protected. So in summary, the big item here is to make sure that medical condition is added in, and then there has been some updated language changes in other places in the policy.
Okay, with that, are there any questions or comments from the board? Okay. There was I just noticed that it's not a biggie, but it's practically a whole sentence that was crossed out on page 1, first paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
And then just federal career technician education. So crossed out American Indian, early childhood, and and all these other items on here. How does federal career group that all together?
Yeah, I won't pretend to have complete expertise on how all of those groups are recategorized or rebranded. But in essence, as state and federal departments of education update how things fall under different departments or under different titles, the board policies get updated with that too. It doesn't necessarily mean that those groups of students are no longer protected. They're just protected under different categories.
And then the tobacco use prevention, did we lose funding from that?
No, it just falls under different guidance now, and I don't
Okay.
remember off the top of my head where it falls.
I apologize, I didn't send the questions to you sooner.
No apology necessary. There's a lot of
Okay.
strikeouts and such on there, so I understand the questions completely.
Okay. With that, if there's no other questions or comments from the board, do we have anything from the public?
Nothing from text.
Okay.
Nothing from email.
Nothing from Zoom.
All right, let's move on to 6D then. This is a discussion regarding board policy on sexual harassment. And Scott.
Yes, I just want to hog the whole meeting tonight, so I'm going to continue on.
There we go.
So
You do cardboard cutouts for everybody else, huh?
there you go, just like the baseball games.
Yeah.
So this policy, just in terms of a total formatting, practical issue, this is one of those policies where the same policy applies to 3 different personnel groupings: classified, certificated, and administrative. And so that's why you'll see in the rewrite that it's one policy with all 3 of those codes listed. For the current board policies that we have, I went ahead and made the decision to put each policy in separately, because that's the way it shows in our gamut, even though it's a repeat each time, but just with a different code on it so that it addresses each personnel grouping. So I apologize if that's confusing at all, but it's really one policy that applies to 3 different personnel groups, if that helps simplify it a little bit. And again, you're going to see 2 different policies regarding sexual harassment. And it makes sense that this is something that we want to protect anybody associated with the district from. This one falls into the 4000s, which is directly related to personnel. Later in the agenda, we'll have a sexual harassment policy, but in the 5000s, which is related to students. So again, just a clarification matter. And so this one had a lot of updates. And so our personnel director, Sandy Figueroa, did a lot of work on it. And there were so many strike throughs and bold and italicized font that we kind of hit that tipping point where we believe that it would be a cleaner process for the board to review it as a complete rewrite rather than several pages that were just full of strike throughs and bold and italicized font. And so this policy has been updated to reflect new federal regulations, which require that the complaints of behavior that meets the federal definition be addressed through Title IX procedures. And also it changed the title of the compliance officer to Title IX coordinator. So sometimes these things are very technical in nature, but we want to make sure that we're staying up to date with those kind of title changes and such. So starting on page 39 of the docket, you'll see page 1 of 3. This is the new rewrite that we're bringing you that has all of the updated language in it, the updated title for the coordinator, and then starting on page 42 of the docket, you'll see the first of 3 policies, even though they're repeat policies as they exist now. So with that, I'll stop and see if there's any questions.
All right, do we have any questions or comments from the board?
And I guess I should add that the rewrite policy is the CSBA recommended policy. That probably
Right.
goes without saying, but just wanted to make sure that it was clear.
You didn't spend all night writing it yourself then?
Yeah, I'd like to take credit for it, but
No, okay, thank you, Scott. Go ahead, Jen.
Just want to thank Sandy for her work on going through that, because it's a very important policy, like all of them. But thank you to her for helping.
we'll let her know.
Perfect. Do we have any comments from, or if we're done with the board, let's move on to the public.
Nothing from
Okay.
And nothing from email.
Nothing from Zoom.
George, your guitar is still on the wall. You're not playing it while you're listening.
I'm eating dinner muted.
Okay, there we go. All right. All right, with that, let's move on to item 6E. And this is also a discussion regarding what Scott brought up before, sexual harassment. Scott.
Yeah, so this one falls under the student category, and it's been updated to include just actions that kind of beef up or reinforce the district's sexual harassment policy. A very specific thing to talk about how practical and precise these things can get is a piece which requires that we post the policy on the district's website, which we have for some time, and also requires displaying a poster and providing sexual harassment policy and student orientations. And so it gets very specific and precise. And you can see some of that reflected, and I'll show you some examples. Well, you'll also see some of that information updated with the Title IX coordinator, so the new language. But then specifically on page 53 of the docket, page 2 of 4 of this particular rewrite policy, there is a number 9 added in the list, about halfway through that second page of the policy, posting the sexual harassment policy on the district website, displaying a poster providing the sexual harassment policy and student orientations. And so this one was a little bit more minor in nature, but so precise that we wanted to make sure we get it in there.
Thank you. Any questions, comments from the board?
I take that to mean virtual orientations as well.
Yeah, right. In this day and time, yes.
Oh, there. Okay.
Well, will that be starting for this year, given that they've already had orientation, or is that for next year?
For that, it would be for next year.
So this policy is for next school season?
Yeah, not since we've already gone through the beginning of the year process, yes.
Okay. Okay, with that, any comments from the public or staff or anybody out there in virtual world? Okay.
Nothing from text.
Nothing
Right.
from email.
None over here.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you for checking too. Let's move on to our action items. So we're going to go with 7A. And this is approval board policy 0470 COVID mitigation plan, which we discussed, I believe, last meeting. Scott.
You pretty much
Right?
said it. Yeah,
Scott,
you pretty much said it,
there we
Ted.
go.
You pretty much said it, Ted. It's a new board policy that's being recommended by CSBA. We had our first reading at the last board meeting. I think there was some general consensus that not only was it timely, but it was well written and actually matches up with the good work that has been happening and should be happening to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 on our students and families. So that's all I'll say about that, and I recommend that the board consider adopting this policy.
I found our little steps here in our guidebook here. I knew it was somewhere. So we'll start off with the board. Does the board have any clarifying questions on this action item? Okay. Public comments out there?
None from text.
Okay.
None from email.
None from Zoom.
All right, thank you. So, okay, I'm going to call for a motion to approve board policy 0470, COVID-19 mitigation plan. Is there a motion on the floor?
I'll make the go ahead. Go
Ty,
ahead.
you sure?
Yeah, I'll be.
Okay, I'll make the motion.
I
This
don't
is
know.
Amanda.
Carolyn's Hollywood Square popped up first. The light popped up first, and so
Oh.
you're saying so.
Ding,
You
ding,
got
ding.
the second square. All right. So we'll go with Carolyn and Amanda, and then if there's no further, is there no further discussion? I'm going to call for a vote since we are all on here. When I say approve, you go ahead and unmute and say aye, and then any opposed, you oppose at the time, so we don't need to do a roll call. So with the motion on the floor, all approve.
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any disapprovals? Okay, none. All right. All right, with that, let's move on to 7B. We're gonna consider the approval of learning continuity and attendance plan. And let's see, how about I'll just give it to Scott.
You know what? I'm tired of the spotlight. I'm going to turn it over to Jessica.
Oh, okay. I didn't see her. Oh, I'm looking at the, there we go. I'll look at here. Sorry, Jessica.
That's okay. I'm happy to defer at any time. So tonight I bring back for a second reading and action the learning continuity and attendance plan that was presented first to the board 2 weeks ago at our previous meeting. I am recommending that the board approve the learning continuity and attendance plan with the caveat of 3 typos that were identified after the docket was posted, and they include on page 76 of the docket, the correction of the word ever to every, or every to ever. Page 86 in the second to the last paragraph, a correction to the typo in the word leverage. And on page 88, on the 3rd line of the synchronous class section, the change of word from known to known. And those corrections have already been made through DTS. Just wanted the board to be aware. And also I wanted to speak to a question that came up on this topic at the last board meeting, and that was, can we provide our community a summary? And our County Office of Education is working with the CNI assistant superintendents and directors to come up with a summary template so that we can all publish something similarly.
Thank you. All right, so do we have any questions, clarifying questions from the board? Okay, so the corrections have all been made. Any public comments? I assume
Nothing
none.
from text. Nothing from text.
Okay.
Nothing from email.
Not on
Very
Zoom.
good. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to call for a motion to approve, consider approval of learning continuity and attendance plan. Is there a motion on the floor?
I'll second. I'll second Amanda's
Amanda's
motion.
Hollywood Square was first. Her light lit
Did I
up
light up?
first, and
I
there we
will.
go.
Yes. All right.
There you
I
go. You got to have your
motion.
little toggle. You got to sit there and go dun, 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 dun. Okay, Amanda first, Phil second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Yes.
All right. And any disapprove? Any nice? None. What do I forgot what I'm supposed to say about that one? Anyway, so all approved. Thank you. Okay, let's
Thank you,
move on to
Jessica.
let's move on to 7C, consider approval of Board of Trustees Governance Handbook. And then actually this goes back to Scott.
All right. Thank you, Ted. So we looked at the governance handbook at the last board meeting, as we do annually. And there were a few suggestions made, some just annual routine in nature, such as making sure that the document reflects the current seating of the board, such as president and vice president, and those changes have been made. There were also a couple of grammatical corrections that were suggested, and those have been made as well. The major change, if we can call it major, would appear in Appendix E, which is page 120 of the docket. And that's where we did some collective thinking on virtual board meetings, with the idea that we're going through this in real time right now. So our mind's on it. So a good time to memorialize it, codify it, and get it into the handbook so that in years in the future, should this come up again, at least there's a little bit of a playbook to go off of. And so that's the intent of Appendix E. We also updated it based on some input that we're hearing about trying to make it more, make this virtual meeting experience more inclusive, while at the same time being ever mindful of the Brown Act, and that a board meeting is not a public meeting, but a meeting of the board in public, and also kind of being mindful of some of the type of accidental events that could happen if it's just everybody on one meet. So we tried to find a middle ground, and that's what that number 4 in virtual board meeting public comment section is. And we're practicing this tonight with George as our moderator. And so that was a key item that's been reworded since our first reading. And then there was a suggestion which made a lot of sense to me on that page, Appendix E 120 of the docket. And the particular sentence that was up for rephrasing was under the second section on that page, virtual board meeting viewing. The very last sentence in that, right before the thick black line, is that's all you have to do to view the meeting. And seems a little informal. And I would like to reword that to something a little bit more formal, such as the steps above or what is necessary to view the meeting. But that's the one recommended change in this current version that was suggested. So other than that, I'd like to open it up to the board for discussion.
Thank you, Scott. Any questions from the board? Comments? All right, thank you. I know the whole virtual board meeting has kind of, the whole Brown Act has been kind of up in the air with it too, and with Newsom's a resolution too. So it's been quite interesting doing a virtual meeting, whereas before with the Brown Act, there were some guidelines to it, and it's a lot of it's kind of up in the air. And so this actually helps too, because who knows how long this is going to go on. If there any other comments or questions, if not, get your buttons out. And public comment on it. I'm sorry.
I have nothing on text.
I have nothing on email.
Nothing on Zoom.
Thank you. All right, get your buttons out. Okay, I'm going to call for a motion to approve our trustees governance handbook. Who's first? Dun 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 dun. Wait, who wants to?
Jen.
There we go. Jen first. 2 seconds.
I'll second. Carolyn.
All right. Amanda. Okay. First and a second.
Ted, do you mind if I just give a big shout out to George for all his help in making this virtual process run much more smoothly?
Yeah, thanks, George. You're doing awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, George.
I totally appreciate it, George, and it's too bad we're not having anyone taking advantage of the opportunity to pop in and comment, but it's but it's so important to get it right.
Eventually it'll happen.
Exactly. So thank you.
All right. So there's a first and second. All oh God. All approve? I'm lost for words.
Aye.
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 Okay.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes.
Are you opposed? No, okay. No, no nays. All right, that was aye. That was a delayed aye. So all ayes. Yeah, okay. Thank you. I was just thinking about something, but then I forgot. All right, well, let's move to 7D. We're going to do consider approving the 1920 unaudited actual financial reports. And guess who it goes to? Michelle.
I get a turn. I'm so
You
excited.
do. We do. We let you have a turn.
Best for last, Michelle, best for last.
That's the
That's
next
right.
board policy. Everybody gets a turn.
So good evening, everyone. I'm here to present the unaudited actuals for 1920. I want to apologize to the board in advance. I wanted to do a PowerPoint presentation, but as the many other items before this, the last few weeks has been a little hectic for me, and I just couldn't get it in time. So I'm going to do my presentation tonight without one, but I promise for first interim we'll be back to normal again, and I'll have my regular presentation for all of you guys. First off, I'd like to thank my staff very much. They hung in there in the end. We were trying to get the SACS report done at 9 o'clock on Thursday night for poor Linda to get the board docs for Friday morning, and it was a killer this year. So what we have for you this evening is a 100-page report outlining what we did financially for the year in all of our funds. I'm happy to say we ended the year in a positive balance, which is what we were aiming for, based on the next few years to come with the unstableness of our state right now. And the governor has passed a positive budget for the current year, which restored most of our funding back to where it was, and us being held harmless for our ADA in the current year has stabilized us out. Part of that was due to the fact that we really, really tightened up in 1920 those last few months and held on to every last dollar we possibly could. So the big page of this my whole presentation is page 223, which is our multi-year projections. And so if we go down there, as you can see, we ended 1920 with about $1.3 million in our ending fund balance. We will need that money to carry us through into our third year out, which is 22-23. Whereas you can see we end that year with just $30,000 in our ending fund balance. So this right now is taking in multiple factors. I have reduced our enrollment in our ADA on a sliding scale. However, based on current numbers, when I present this to you at first interim, these numbers are going to change drastically based on where our current enrollment is looking like it's going to fall out. It was anticipated, not quite as much as I had hoped it would drop, but we did anticipate a drop. So when next year comes around and the governor releases his budget in January for the next year, we're hoping to get some clarity on what the out years will look like and if the districts will be granted any sort of hold harmless in the out years. Part of this does play into what I had mentioned in my report earlier in the evening, which is the deferrals that are to come beginning in February. Half of February will be deferred. March, April, May, and June will all be deferred, all of our cash, and we'll be receiving them July, August, September, October, November of the following year. We currently have resolution in place with the County of Santa Cruz, and we have a resolution in place with the COE of Santa Cruz, both where we have lending power to pull us through on our cash. And then with the trans that we're looking at putting in place, we'll bridge that gap even further, because after April 26th of 2021, we will no longer be able to borrow from the County of Santa Cruz, and the COE only has a collective pot of $5 million for all the districts in the county to borrow from. And as Scott had alluded to earlier, we have one district with 20,000 ADA, so you can tell how far $5 million will go between 10 school districts. So we want to make sure we take care of ourselves and get a bridging loan, which is basically what a trans is. Some of the other highlights of our budget this year was we knew we were going to have to make an anticipated contribution to our child nutrition service program, which we did have to do. It was a $75,000 contribution. Due to COVID, we had already projected a contribution, but that was exasperated by our pandemic and the way we were able to serve meals to our students come the end of the year. We are projecting in 2021 to have to make another contribution to the program. Fortunately, we have the learning loss mitigation funding, which part of that federal funding was to support our child nutrition programs to continue to get meals to our students. This budget, the SACS report as printed, delineates how our ending fund balance is opposed to our adopted budget. What I've presented to you in my multi-year projections for 2021, I have included the learning loss mitigation funding, and I have restored our revenue to where it will be with the restoration of the budget. So this is closer into line what it will look like that I present to you for first interim. I wanted to present this because it is the most up-to-date budget, but the SACS program is quite antiquated and will only allow certain things to be pulled through, and it would not allow me to pull through our current budget as it stands right now. So this is a comparison to where we were at adopted budget. And I just want to make sure I hit all my highlights for you guys. Yep, I think I hit it all. Unless you guys have any questions for me for this evening.
Yeah, Phil.
Hi, Michelle. Oh, what a drag, right? Trying to squish those numbers in the last hour.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I will tell everyone the accounting person is the person with the least amount of time because she's the last person to see the numbers. Here's my question on the deferrals. So do we book the deferral as a receivable? And is there a finance charge for that?
Yes, we do, and no, there is not.
Okay. As far as the unaudited actuals, do you anticipate a post-close adjustment after the audit?
No, I do not. I think that we are very clean due to the fact that with the pandemic, our mid-year audit stretched till Monday, and we are beginning tomorrow our final year audit. So I had about a 3-day buffer.
Right. Okay.
So I spoke with our auditors on Monday morning, and we are looking really well. I have to say, I think it's funny because they're great. Our auditing firm is wonderful, and they work very, very hard. But it did make me feel a little bit good when he said that he audited our bond fund repeatedly and heavily and tried to find a problem and could not. So I think we're looking really good for our approved. Also the state, which I just learned on Monday because I hadn't realized that either, due to what's going on between the fires and the pandemic, they have extended the audit to March for them to make their final approvals because the auditing firms, and they still haven't even gotten a final audit guide on how the attendance factor will play into our funding and the engagement component, which is still part, it's all tied into one big ball for 2021.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments to this?
No question from me, but just thank you so much, Michelle, to you and your team for the incredible amount of work that must have gone into this.
We were so happy to be done.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yep, same from me. Thank you very, very much to you and the team, especially given what everyone and you have been through in the past couple of weeks. So really heartfelt thank yous.
Okay, with that, any comments, questions from the public?
None from tech.
None from email.
None from Zoom.
Very good. All right, so I am going to call for a motion to approve the 1920 unaudited actuals financial reports. And Phil jumped in.
I second.
First. Okay, Phil and Amanda. Okay. No further discussion. I will go for a vote. So all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? None. Okay, very good.
Thank you.
And that's it with the action items. So let's go to correspondence. Anybody have any correspondence they'd like to submit? If not, then any future agenda items? Okay, then let's go to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Amanda, I'll make the motion. And Ted, I want to say thank you. You're doing an awesome job leading us on Zoom. I really appreciate
Thank you
it.
very much.
Mhm.
Thank you. Maybe I'll wear my Chuck Berry outfit next time. Okay, Phil, second. All in favor? Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? I don't think so. Okay, it's 8 o'clock. Have a good rest of the evening.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
Everybody
Good
stay
night,
safe.
everybody.
How many miles did you walk?
Thank you. It was really slow. Really slow.
That's a good way to do a meeting. I think,
So-
but if we
Yep.
all walked, I think we'd be racing.
Trying to stay healthy.
Nice job. Nice
Thank
job.
you.
Good night,
Good
everybody.
job, everybody.
Thanks
All
again,
right.
George.
Good night, everybody.
And Linda. Thank you,
I'll-
Linda.
Right.